Wait, it's here. Why am I holding it this way? I don't know. I'm outside walking. Two guesses where. And I already finished my first lap. Starbucks, like, it's overpriced, but the sandwiches are good. They are. Anyway, so I already had like my sandwich and my drink on my first lap, and I've been just sort of thinking a little bit, I guess. So I don't know. I'm in an interesting point. It's another chalk, I guess, and I'm gonna pull a card, literally, from Russell's pocket. I'm assuming, and I have my deck in my pocket, so I can pull a card as I'm walking, because that was pretty cool. Hey, Holly, how you doing? The sandwich was good. I said light ice on the drink. I love when they actually do light ice because I get a little bit more drink, but I don't necessarily like when light ice means a warm drink. You know what I mean? It was kind of warm towards the end, and that was unfortunate, but they gave me what I wanted. Is that the theme? Getting what I want? And then it's like, oof. Anyway, so I'm gonna start with a card. I'm gonna go from there. Ooh, ooh, ooh! Trying to pull it out of my pocket. I hope I don't lose any cards, and I hope I don't bend them, cause it might happen. We just saw her, the Queen of Wisdom. Ooh, it's a squirrel. Um, I remember. I think it was many paths, and it's like cooler here today, which I love. Like the past few days have been so cool and so nice. It was like right around the fall equinox, that fall weather came in. Amazing. Um, but this makes me think of that many paths, and what else was it? Whatever else. Anyway, oh, that's when I used this deck last. How it's like we sort of come off of one branch and then we flow back to the center and we choose a different sort of route. But it's almost like she's too big to go down any path that she is now. So I don't know if that's about downsizing necessarily. Can you hear it raining acorns? I guess the oh yeah, I guess you might not be able to hear it, but they keep falling. I feel like one of them is gonna hit me. I haven't been hit yet, but there's a first time for everything, right? Branches, acorns. So maybe it's a little bit of downsizing. I know one thing I was gonna talk about um, is that I find myself, I guess, in a place in life where there's less room, where it feels like it's beginning to feel like there's less and less room for hesitation, for procrastination, um, for not pursuing or moving forward with the things that are for me to move forward with. Oh, it's that 79 years, 4 months, and 15 days old. Okay. 27. Anyway, um, yeah, I find myself in that sort of position. Um, in a way, And I guess it's interesting because it is in the space of things that I desire or things that I asked for. And more, I guess I see the manifestation of those things in certain ways. Like things continue to unfold in ways, and as they continue to unfold, either, oh, the immediacy depends, but the realization will hit me that, like, oh, like this is something that I asked for. This is something that I wanted. This is something that I specifically told the universe I'm looking for. And then of course it's me still, I don't know, being me. So for me personally, well, let's clarify that. Queen of Wisdom with, ooh, this card. I don't know what this video is going to be, but we're going to go with it. It's the Knight. It might be the Knight of Charisma. This, it's obviously given like Mjolnir vibes, but Mjolnir was more lightning than sun. But I guess the only difference really is its expansiveness. Like lightning is more concentrated. It's more precise. And it's more like laser, and the sun is more like flashlight. You know what I mean? But I'm not sure if it's done. Right? I don't know if it's still being forged, because it's very like forge energy. I feel like that speaks of purpose too. Like, excuse me, my armory, I guess, knowledge is rusty. But you have like maces, right? You have cudgels. Well, maybe not a cudgel. But it's like, because it's on a knight, you would almost assume that this hammer is meant for warfare. But it's reading more like a blacksmithing tool. And so that's what brings in a question of purpose. And then also on this sun, we see again the different rays coming off of it, right? So I originally read the energy as you follow a river or a body of water up to its source. When you get to the source, you notice that there are multiple pickoff points. It splits into many river streams, and it was about picking a different one. But because of that, in particular, it's almost like maybe it's not about moving, maybe it's about staying at the source, because there's something, there's something being done. And so now it feels like, well, it's almost the energy of, I forget which sign had it, of what you find in that place of peace. Or, no, that was the heart of the sky. So maybe that was the same reading, because I used that deck for the standstill. It's what can be found in a place of peace. And so it's almost like if we were to choose a path, then we would experience one thing. And after we're done experiencing that one thing, we go back to zero, or we go back to the beginning and we choose a different path. We make a different choice, we have a different set of experiences, and then we experience another thing. But if we can stay at the center, then instead of going down a path to experience a thing, all things flow to the center so we can experience many things. Or we come into a different level of understanding rather than a first you learn this and then you learn that and then you learn another thing. It's almost like when you get it all at once, you kind of sort of maybe see relations between the different things or a certain level of that level of interconnectedness highlights, illuminates something that you wouldn't necessarily find unless you took those many paths. And it's funny because I guess like the many paths were converging, and that's where those people were sort of meeting, and then the journey was going to continue because whatever caused the standstill was moving. The glove in that card, I think I still have it right here, also stuck out to me. I think this is it. Yeah, it is. This glove also stands out. And the fact that this hand is ungloved does. Or is that a glove or is that his hand? I don't know. Where am I going? Not that way. There are cards. That glove stands out. It makes me think of my, was that world history professor? Who was like, you want the velvet glove or the iron fist? Anyway, we'll get one more to conclude it. Let's see. Oh, snap. It's the Empress. Can you see her? There you go. In all her radiance. I'm looking at how she's looking at the entirety of that sphere. So there is something about that perspective. And there's a little bit of high priestessy energy here. And the banner on the back because of the crescent moons. And I'm looking at her sword. Oh, going this way. And for some reason, like the cross guard on the sword is a lot wider than the blade is. But it makes me think of cats. And it's like if a cat can fit its head through something, then the whole body will go through or something like that. And so it's like you only need a certain amount of room to completely get into something. So maybe it's like an entry point. And again, like she was holding that whole Golden Globe thing. And it feels like that's giving me the energy of the perspective that one can gain from the source. And it's interesting too, because what the Emperor just came out with the King of Cups. So the Queen of Cups through some night leads us to the Empress. The Empress is also many things at once. She's the queen of all queens, queen of wands, swords, cups, and pentacles. Had to think, which way am I going? I'll go this way. You can sit on these benches. I mean, I had the idea that you could, but I wouldn't sit on any of them. Anyway, that don't matter. Um, Maybe there's just something that requires more of us, more sides. It requires us to be more present, to be more multifaceted. That sword still sticks out to me though. It wasn't raised, first of all. Um, I don't know. This is where I saw those three deer. Um, yeah, it wasn't raised. I guess the Empress is in an interesting position because she's both the Queen of Pentacles. So it feels like between all of the queens that the Empress is, there's a choice and decision that she's consciously making about where to focus her energy, her attention, and her efforts. Because wherever she puts that, something will grow, right? The Empress isn't necessarily just one who receives, kind of like the Queen of Wands. Okay. Anyway, that's weird. I don't know if I like this. It's fine. Um, she doesn't just receive like the Queen of Wands, like she does, but it's more than things just sort of like coming to her or her being attractive or magnetic or enticing, enchanting. Like she also puts energy, effort, work, dedication into, yeah, into as you say, acorns. The wind is picking up again, but up. Um, she also puts work into stuff. And so maybe also with that Golden Globe, she is being a little more, maybe through the space of the Queen of Swords and the Queen of Cups, she's being a little more, she's like thinking further out into the future. And maybe that's a little bit of like that high priestess energy. I just cracked the nut. I just cracked the nut. Oh my gosh. Okay, well. If you know, you know. If you don't, it's fine. Um, Maybe that was a little bit of the high priestess. She's like thinking out further, implying that she knows something. Ah! Maybe it's partially she knows something. Maybe there's just something that she desires to sort of see in the world. And she knows or believes that she's the one to initiate that thing into being, because the Empress is usually often depicted as pregnant, right? So there's something that she's birthing into the world. Now, I'll pull another card to see if like this is something that she's currently carrying, or if she's like Well, I'll pull one to see like how far in her pregnancy she is. We'll get this card if I can get it out of my pocket. It's an ace. I think like this is reading like she's being impregnated right now with all of the energy flowing around her. Eh, I guess it's, do you see it as going into her heart, question mark, or coming out of her heart? Because I could see it either way. Either she's giving birth to the thing or she's being impregnated. Um, and it's funny because that's what that that golden color, it's the same color as the orb she was holding. I guess I'll take one more lap. Woo, the wind is picking up, it's cooling down. There's like a lot of shade over here, so it's not that bad. Um, but that golden color swirling around her, it makes me think of the orb that she was holding in her hand. And so there's something about, I always sort of like see it as like straining or draining, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But it's like unwinding, unraveling, it's elongating. Um, maybe that's how it plays out, or how it's playing out in real life, right? Because we can get an idea of something from conception or inception to birth, and then we can get an idea of the life of that thing, and we can sort of receive that all at once. Or if we think about it, ooh, if we think about it, we can see it all at once. um, but in real life it doesn't necessarily always come all at the same time. So maybe there's it is that both. It's making me think of, is it DNA helicase? I think there's a string or a yarn or a thread, and then there's a golden orb that goes along the thread, and it's like it unwinds and rewinds the thread. Oh, the sword. Is the Empress like a Norn or a Fate? Because Lachesis cuts, no, Atropos cuts, Lachesis measures, Clotho spins. But in the Mystical Dream Tarot, on the Four of Cups, I think it is, you see the three fates and then a fourth person. Um, I kind of want to go that way. Sure, let's go this way. You see a fourth person, and it's giving me like Norn type energy. So it's like there's an idea, or there's the vision that she has of the thing, but as she lives life, or as that thing is born, And then as it matures in the world, there's almost like adjustments that need to be made. But it's almost like less adjusting and more accounting for the present circumstances and situations. So like let's say that there's something that you're building, but there's a certain material that you don't have, or it's super expensive. You have to substitute, okay? You got to make a substitution for a material for whatever reason. It's like that, being able to substitute. So it's like it's involved in the process. Um, and all the while this is happening, she's still at the center, right? So I think that's why it's again like that's why the high priestess is there, because there's something about that like accounting for things, or there's something about the awareness of like the present situation, the situation at hand, and being able to account and accommodate for it more so than being like so focused on like, well, this is how I saw it, this is what it looked like, this is what it has to be, this is what it needs to be, to the point where it's almost blind to circumstance. It's blind to life. How things can change, things can happen, things can work out differently than we planned, things grow and evolve, sometimes for the better. Sometimes we do something and then we sort of realize we'd rather do something else. And there's a question of whether we continue because it's what we always wanted and we've already invested so much time, energy, and effort, or whether we pivot. And if we pivot, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't hand that thing off to someone else, or that someone else can't or won't inherit it and take it further. And then it all gets into not purpose, but kind of purpose, in the same way that that night was there. Um, right? And that's what happened to Mjolnir, right? They were, the doors were making Mjolnir and Loki was up to his tricks, and the dwarves were persistent, perseverant, but he got him at the end. And so the handle was shorter than it was supposed to be. But Thor was like, oh, like, it's still functional. I can work with this. And so it's like, you know, did Loki kind of sort of win in the end? Yes. Because I feel like it was Sindri, but because one of the dwarves did whatever and ended up making a mistake according to their design, but it ended up working out fairly well from a certain point of view. I guess, you know what I mean? And I sort of like that for the Empress, because I feel like maybe it's through connotation more so than the energy. But like whenever it comes to king or queen, or especially emperor and empress, there's a certain element of like control that just sort of is present. And with all of her insight, with all of her awareness, and with all of her accountability, there's still something about that Empress that feels like she can resign certain things. And it feels like that's the benefit of the perspective of remaining at the source and not necessarily fully going down a certain path, because there's just something about knowing when to push and when not to push. It's cooperative. Even emperors and empresses cooperate. Right? Some of them, I guess. But yeah. Woo! So, final card on this. Oh, snap. Why are tigers a thing? Why are tigers a thing right now? Tigers were a thing a hot second ago. I love tigers. Tiger for me, it's like the lion. So like the lion is strength, right? But for me, the tiger, it's like it's stronger than the lion. And because the tiger is stronger than the lion, there's a certain element of it breeds grace. Um, there's a certain level of like self-awareness or self-accountability that one has to have. Like it's like it would be really, really, really easy for the tiger to fall into like a five of swords, where you do way too much, where it's overkill, and it's like to the point where it might be more harm than good. And so tiger, and it's like strength and grace, it's like it balances it out. It's almost like the falcon and the hawk, and how I think it was like the hawk, the bird that dives head first is faster, but the bird that dives like talons first has more like precision and control. You sacrifice a little bit of that speed for control or precision. I'm like, hold on, wait, is this open? This is open? This is open! That is wild! Somebody was like, literally yesterday, I was talking about coming out here today, yesterday. And someone was like, oh, if you come in through the south gate, then it's like right there. And like every time I walk by, that gate is closed. So I'm assuming that they never open the gate anymore. And it's open. What? Okay. Take that as it resonates. I'm glad I came this way. I'm glad I ended up doing another lap. But anyway, so it's like the bird isn't necessarily slower than the other one, but because it holds precision, there's a certain element of speed that has to be sacrificed. So that's how I view like the tiger and the lion. But we get this page. Well, I'll just show you the card. Standing in front of that door. Oh my gosh, that's the gate of Sahakio. The gate is opening. Because I used this deck when I did the standstill. These clarified the mystical shaman oracle cards. And I think the Andean cross was at the bottom of the deck. And it was one of those, the Andean seal is being unlocked or whatever, but seeing them in front of the door, oh snap, there's a squirrel, hold up, wait, oh, I was gonna flip the camera. There was a squirrel that was like not running away. I was like, how close are you gonna let me get, little squirrel? But anyway, yeah, it, so maybe it's like, Because that's another, the last time I saw that queen, it was the message of like the water is getting deeper or something like that. So it's like maybe they're at, they stay at source. It's almost like I've seen it more so in video games, but it's like cooking. There you go. It's like if you hold it on the stove long enough, it'll be done. But it's like if you hold, but that was the thing too, right? Because it was like in that place of peace, that's where you can hear the heart of the sky, and then like something opens up. It's that energy. It's like when you're holding at source and it's too big to go down any particular pathway, so to continue it would have to sort of like break itself down or dilute itself or concentrate itself, like what the first sort of interpretation of the energy was. But it's like if you stay there long enough, a new path opens. And maybe that's why that sword was pointed down, or that's why the sword was at rest. Because it's like, it's one of those hold, not yet, on my mark, not yet. And then the door opens and you're like, oh my gosh, secret passageway, what? It's one of those. See, I knew that Empress knew more. And I did think it was strange that she wasn't necessarily acting as much, empressing as much, that she was just sort of holding presence. But maybe in that ace, there's an energy that's accumulating within us. Duh, that was like literally the thing. That's why you wait at source, right? Because it's like, if you wait at the source, it's like if you go down a path, you experience that path. But if you wait at the source, all things flow into the source. And so it all comes to you. And as it's all coming to you, there was that thing that you begin to understand, because you can see a bigger picture, or because you're getting so many pieces all over the puzzle rather than in like a specific corner of the puzzle, that you can get an idea of what the picture overall is, right? Rather than just like you get a bunch of blue pieces and it's like that could be the sky, it could be water, it could be someone's dress, it could be literally anything blue. But you know, you get some blues up here and you get some greens down here and some funky colors in between, and you're like, oh, it's sunset at the Olympic Stadium, 1947, circa spring. And like, oh my gosh, yeah. Rather than like, oh, it's a pool. It's like, no. So there's something that's accumulating inside of the heart with that page that is the key to unlocking that door. And it's interesting too, because it was still at the top and bottom of the deck last time. It was it was the like trial of light or whatever, rather than like the dark night of the soul. And there was the dragon with the horde that was like, if you can withstand my flame, if you can withstand the light, then you can have it, it's yours. So there's something about taking it in and transmuting it internally rather than sort of shielding ourselves from it. And it can be bypassing, but not necessarily. Not today. So anyway, I have reached my destination. Thank you, Holly, for being here. I hope you all have a wonderful whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. And until next time, it's been another Chalk in the Cemetery.